Hey guys, so today we're going to be building a new PC in the Apevia Genesis Pro Case. This one happens to be pink. This is actually for a buddy of mine. He asked me to build him a PC around the $1,100 mark, and it's for his girl. That's what he told me. So I'm like, I don't judge, dude. If you want it in pink, that's super sicko mode to me. I'm gonna see what it's like to build in it. Hopefully this gives you guys a good idea of what an $1,100 PC looks like, and it should be really sicko mode. Before we get started, please like and subscribe if you enjoy watching this content. I'll continue to put out content weekly, and I'll strive to make every video as sicko mode as possible. All right, let's get to it. So quick overview of the parts that I'm using. I'm going to be using the Ryzen 5 5600. The motherboard that I'm using is the ROG Strix B550F Gaming Wi-Fi 2 motherboard. Looks pretty cool. The GPU I'm using is the MSI RX5650 XT. I went with 16 gigs of G.Skill Trident Z RGB RAM, 3600 megahertz. I'm going to be using the Crucial P3 Plus to take advantage of PCI 4.0. Probably won't see a big difference, but that's the one I went with. I'm using a Corsair 750 watt power supply. Now cooling, I'm not sure if I'm gonna use this cooler. The stock cooler is more than capable of cooling the 5600, but if we want a little more RGB, we can use this Thermaltake cooler. It should look a little cooler, and it's all gonna be inside of the Apevia Genesis Pro case in pink. It says it comes with 6 case fans, which is actually a decent amount. They're not anything fancy, but hey, they came with it. So I'll go ahead and build in this, and I'll do some benchmarks, some stress tests, just to see what to expect out of an $1,100 PC, as well as what it would look like in a pink case. So let's get cracking. Hopefully it's not broken. I mean, for 92 bucks, this isn't a bad looking case. The RGB fans are controlled by this button up here. There isn't like a program or any customization in the OS that allows you to change the colors. But it's a $92 case, so I wouldn't expect anything too fancy, but it is impressive that it comes with 6 RGB fans. A big reason why I went with the Ryzen 5 5600 for the price point at around $140. It was very similar to the 5600X, which was around $160 to $170. And I thought it was worth it going from the 5500 to the 5600. You do get a jump from PCIe 3.0 to PCIe 4.0. Not that it's gonna make a big difference, it's just nice to have. Do you need something?
Is that pink?
Yes.
Wow.
I went with Ryzen instead of Intel because the Ryzen processors were slightly cheaper, and also the motherboards were a little cheaper, so I was able to fit everything in the budget. And I thought the best value right now, if you're gonna be doing 1080p gaming, was to go with the AMD RX5650 XT. So I was like, well, might as well make it all AMD. So I guess to reiterate, the point of this video is to show you what an $1,100 build looks like, as well as building in this Apevia case. I've never built using this brand. My friend's name is Austin, and he's a pretty cool dude. He's very strong. You don't wanna mess with him. Nah, but he's a good guy. I was actually very impressed with the AMD Ryzen 5 5500, which is the step below the 5600. It kind of restored my faith in AMD. I recently bought an AMD 7600X, and it actually failed on me. It kind of left a bitter taste in my mouth. That's not the first AMD processor that I bought brand new that has failed on me. It does make me lose a little trust in them, but the AMD Ryzen 5 5500 has helped me, I guess, gain some of that trust back, because I was very impressed with it and I actually really liked it. Hopefully we have no issues with this one. All 6 RGB fans are powered by all these Molex connectors. That's pretty gross. Since all the fans are already pre-installed, it's making it a little tight. I think I can get the motherboard to fit, but well, that's annoying. I'm gonna have to take out the fans. So if you buy this case and you have a full ATX motherboard, you may need to take out the fan to make it fit, at least with this one. So I got everything put together. It was actually a relatively easy case to build in. I was surprised I was able to fit everything in the back without it impeding the back panel from closing. It only took me about an hour and 20 minutes to build. I didn't run into any issues. So I chose all the parts except for the case. My buddy chose a case. He said that his girlfriend would love a pink case, so that's why it's pink. Try to make it as sicko mode as possible. I'm not hating on pink, pink is cool. The RX 6650 XT I got it for less than $300, and the comparable NVIDIA GPU is the 3060, and it's still 350, 360, and this should still outperform the 3060. This cooler, I would say, is optional. You could use the AMD stock cooler. It just has an RGB fan to make it look a little fancier. This processor doesn't use a lot of power, and it doesn't heat up very much, so you shouldn't really need a beefy cooler. And I guess if we're talking about the case, the pluses, it has 6 RGB fans it comes with. Downside, you can't control them in the OS. They just has this button where you can cycle colors. I don't like how you have to break the ports in the back to access the GPU connections. That just makes it feel like a cheap case. It did have slots for 3.5-inch bays as well as 2.5-inch SSDs, so have some expansion options there. But other than that, I mean, it was just a pretty basic case. Nothing to point out other than that it comes with 6 fans and that it's pink. The motherboard has a little bit of pink on it, which is a nice touch. I didn't even realize that. All right, let's plug her in. Let's see if she even boots. Moment of truth. Well, we got power. Let's see if I get anything on the monitor. Let's see, we detected a new processor. I do have the OS already pre-installed on the SSD, so should boot right up so that we can do some quick benchmarks, maybe do some gaming, just test it out, you know, break it in, because that would suck if they get it and it doesn't work. I didn't know this, but according to the NZXT cam software, the Ryzen 5 5600's code name is Vermeer, like the wood chippers. I used to do tree work, so yeah. Let me put the glass on it and then I'll run Cinebench. I got a score of 10,296 with a high temp of 63 degrees Celsius. And if you wanted to compare it to something, I have the score for the Ryzen 5 7600X, which got a score of 14,346 with a high temp of 96. I ran the Furmark stress test to see how much heat I can generate. I got a high temp on the CPU of 73 degrees. We'll keep using the 7600X as a comparison. I got a high of 96 degrees Celsius on that one. I kind of already knew going in that the temps were gonna be really good. All right, so the next gaming benchmark I ran was the Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark. I ran everything in ultra quality at 1080p resolution. I ended up averaging 174 frames per second. Now, if we move on to the Cyberpunk test, I think the first time I ran everything in like high and SICKO settings, and I wasn't getting good FPS at all. Cyberpunk is actually even more graphically intense, so it should be worse than Tomb Raider. I still had ray tracing on, I just had it on low ray tracing settings at 1080p again, and I averaged 73 frames per second. So if you still want to have ray tracing on at 60 frames per second, this GPU can definitely do it. You're not going to get the highest settings, but Cyberpunk still looks good at these settings. All right, so with GTA 5, I did do some gaming. I ran everything at ultra at 1080p. My FPS wasn't super high. I mean, I would see it fluctuate from the 60s to the 70s, even the 80s at times. This is running the GTA benchmark, and my FPS was pretty good. I was averaging, I was definitely over, I was in the 120s, 130s. So at 1080p, this was a really good experience. So let's recap. So we had an $1,100 budget. It needed to be pink. This is what I came up with. I didn't pick the case, I picked all the other components. It was kind of fun to build. I don't think I would build this PC for myself, but if you're wanting a pink color scheme, this is actually a pretty cool build. I thought I wouldn't be a fan of the RGB fans because they're controlled by a button at the top instead of within the OS, but it gives you pretty much all the colors you need, kind of. And I'm able to match all the other RGB to match the fans. I think the pink PSU extensions give it a nice touch as well. I'll put a PC part picker link so you can see all the parts that I use. Maybe this will give you an idea if you're looking for a perfect 1080p gaming machine. You could get some inspiration from this. Hopefully my friend's girlfriend thinks it's super cool, because I mean, even though it's pink, I think it's pretty cool. Once again, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I will do my best to keep putting out content weekly, and everything I put out is gonna be super sicko mode. And like always, have a sicko mode day. I gotta go give it to my friend now.